I have seen it said that the opposite of love is indifference. Right now, I wouldn't agree. In any case, for me, the opposite of love is hate. Blind, seething hatred. I used to love my wife with all my heart and soul. I would do anything for her. I would even get shot. But this is no longer the case. She tore my heart out and ruined my once happy life. And now it's time for me to destroy her. The house was dark as I slowly crept up the stairs, doing my best not to give myself away. Of course, the two cheaters in what was once the master bedroom I shared with my wife still couldn't hear me over all the noise they were making. I reached the bedroom door, which was only partially closed, and pushed it all the way open with the 12-gauge pump-action shotgun I had with me. There they were. My future ex-wife, Alice, and my boss, Jake Harmon. I chambered around and watched as the two bastards stopped and stared at me in surprise. Nothing grabs someone's attention like the sound of a shell being chambered in a shotgun. Jake got off Alice. "What are you doing here, weakling?" he asked. "You were supposed to be in Jonesboro. Why are you here? Do you want to see how a real man has your wife? This is all? Are you some kind of pervert or something?" Alice giggled at this. "Yes, baby. He wants to see how a real man makes me feel good," she said. Jake laughed and stepped towards me. That's when it all started. I shot at them until there was nothing left of them. Finally, I stopped and my rage passed. The room smelled of gunpowder, and I could see smoke hanging in the air like a thick blanket. I looked at what was left of my ex-wife and her lover and realized that my life was over. Once the police arrive, they will probably shoot me to death. If they hadn't done that, I probably would have ended up on death row. No thanks. I checked and found that I had one more cartridge left, and I shot myself. I sat up on my bed and my body was wet with sweat. At first I didn't recognize my surroundings, then it dawned on me. I stayed overnight at a hotel in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and have been there since Sunday. It was early Thursday morning. I was here to take care of updating the client base at Jake's direction. The work was finished on Wednesday, and I completed my paperwork before going to bed. I planned to return by car after leaving the hotel after sunrise. When my head cleared from the remnants of the nightmare, I took a breath and looked at the clock. It was only 3:30 a.m. Damn, I thought, I'll never be able to sleep again. I got out of bed, washed my face, then made a cup of coffee. I turned on the TV and tried to calm down. This was not the first time I had experienced this nightmare, and something told me that it would not be the last. This has happened almost every night for the past week since I first learned of Alice's betrayal. Each nightmare was very similar, with the only difference being my favorite weapon. I remember one time I dreamed that I had a minigun in my hands. In another dream, I actually carried a rocket-propelled grenade and blew them, along with the bedroom, into oblivion. Then there was a dream in which I actually used a nuclear device and destroyed half the county along with 2 traitors. Keep in mind, I am not typically a violent person, and although I spent years in the Marine Corps, I have never fired a weapon in anger. Of course, I have several pistols, including a 12-gauge shotgun. Hell, everyone in these parts has a pistol or two. But I never once considered using any of them against another person. That is, until recently. Why such changes, you ask? Let me tell you. My name is Thomas Jefferson Langley. My parents had a weakness for history, so I got this name from birth. My sister and only other sibling was named after Betsy Ross, seriously. I joined the Marines straight out of high school and became a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense specialist. With the exception of a year-long tour in Okinawa, Japan, I spent time in the States, mostly working as an instructor. For the last 6 months of my service, I was one of the guys who operated the gas chamber at the base where I was stationed. I realized early on in my military career that someone with my skills would be virtually useless in the civilian world, so I went to school and got a degree in networking and business. It took 3 years to complete a 2-year degree, so I quit at the end of my 4-year term and went back to school using my benefits. When I graduated, I went to work as a customer service representative for Empire Tech Solutions, a national IT company headquartered in my hometown in Missouri. I met Alice when I was doing a survey for the local newspaper. She worked as an editor and was one of the people who decided which photos would go best with their articles. We talked, dated, fell in love, and eventually got married. This was 5 years ago. The next 4.5 years were good. Alice and I got along quite well and enjoyed spending time together whenever we could. We made love several times a week and started talking about having children. We made some pretty good money, so we bought an old 4-bedroom farmhouse outside the city, set on 1.5 hectares of land. It took a little work, but we both loved it. She liked the fact that it was a little rustic, and I liked the separate workshop located on the property. We both also loved the fact that the master bedroom had its own gas fireplace and there was plenty of space for children, and then the world went to hell, at least for me. My boss, Bill Michaels, retired, and the company began looking for a replacement. I thought this would be a great opportunity for me, so I applied for the job. I didn't realize it, but John Carlson, the man in charge of the company's nationwide service operations, told me that I was seriously considered, but the board chose someone else, Jake Harmon. I looked up Harmon on the company's intranet and discovered that he was being transferred here from Boston, where he had worked as a senior account representative in the Northeast region of the country. He had a little more experience than me, but not that much. His uncle also happened to be one of the high-ranking members of the board of directors. Naturally, he got the job. I studied the photo of his face and immediately took a dislike to him. There was something about his crooked smile that just screamed trouble. He climbed aboard and made all the rounds. Women in the office were drawn to him like moths to a flame. He was a few inches taller than me and quite muscular. He smiled that same crooked smile when he shook my hand the first time we met. "Well, I finally meet my opposition," he said. "I was told that you almost got my job. Don't worry, I won't let this affect our relationship." "I'm glad to hear that," I told him. He smiled and left my office. Something about him really pissed me off, but I wasn't entirely sure what it was. One evening after dinner I told Alice about this. "Why don't you invite him to dinner sometime?" she said. "Maybe you can break the ice with him." "He is married?" I shook my head. "I don't think so," I said. "I didn't see this in his online biography." "Maybe he's just a little lonely," she said. "A lonely guy in a new city, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. He must have had a hard time adjusting, especially after living in Boston." "Maybe you're right," I said. The next day I invited him to dinner and he readily accepted my invitation. "And feel free to bring your family if you want," I told him. "I don't have a family," he said. "It's just me, but I'd love to have dinner with you and your wife." "Thanks for the invitation. Should I bring anything?" "It's just your appetite," I said. "Okay," he said. "I will be there." He arrived on time and overall we had a good evening. We got to know each other a little and it seemed to me that we had developed something like a mutual understanding. Alice did her best by preparing a stew with potatoes and vegetables. She even put some in a plastic container for him to take home. "He doesn't seem like such a bad guy," Alice said after he left. "You two seem to get along well." "Yes, probably," I said. And yet, deep down, I had doubts. "By the way, it was a wonderful one-pot stew. Let me help you with the dishes and then I'll thank you properly upstairs," I added, smacking her bottom. She giggled, then pranced into the dining room to begin clearing the table. The next day at work, Jake came into my office. "I just wanted to thank you for dinner last night," he said. "It was a fantastic stew made by your wife." "You're welcome," I said. "Yes, Alice cooks very well." He smiled and nodded his head. I couldn't help but wonder what else he was thinking about. "Listen, Tom, I need you to start going out of town more often," he said. "I know my predecessor limited your time out of town, but I'm concerned that we might see some business mishaps if we don't become a little more aggressive." "What are we talking about?" I asked. He was right. Bill made sure I made no more than one trip every 2 weeks at most, worried about how it would affect my family life. That was one of the things I really appreciated about him. "I'm thinking maybe one trip a week," Jake said. I know it can be difficult with Alice, but I will make sure that you are well compensated for the time you spend away from home. When will this start? I asked. Next week, he said. It wasn't that long, considering it was already Friday. Actually, I'd like you to go to St. Louis on Monday. Peters and Listrom are discussing upgrading some of their servers in preparation for tax season, and I'd like your assessment of the situation and some recommendations. This is usually done remotely, but I'd like you to be a little more hands-on. Peters and Listrom was an accounting firm we had worked with for many years, and this was the first I heard about the update. Okay, I said. What time period are we talking about here? It won't take me more than a few hours at most. You forget that they have branches all over the city, Jake said. You will need to visit them all. Crap, I thought. It may take 2 or 3 days, maybe even 4. Okay, I said. I'll let Alice know. She won't be happy. I think she'll come to terms with it when she sees your salary, Jake said before leaving my office. Alice wasn't happy that I'd be gone for potentially 4 days the next week, but I took her out to dinner and dancing that night, and we spent most of the weekend in bed. Call me when you get settled, and I'll wait for a call every day, she said, as I packed my things into the car. Luckily, St. Louis was close enough that I could drive there. And you better be on your best behavior. Am I not always like this? I asked before kissing her. I called her on her cell phone as I settled into my room in St. Louis and later that evening after my first client meeting. I called the home phone every evening and we enjoyed pleasant, long conversations that always ended on a happy note. As it turns out, I finished with a client early Thursday morning, so I drove home, planning to surprise my wife. We had a wonderful reunion, and I thought everything would be fine. The next couple of weeks weren't too bad. In the end, I was only away one night during those weeks. After that, everything started to change. The trips became longer and longer, and over the next 4 weeks I was gone for 4 days, with one trip lasting a full 5 days. Jake was true to his word, and I did see a significant increase in my salary, but it hardly made up for the time spent away from Alice. At first, Alice seemed to be able to cope with the absences, but I could tell they started to take their toll on her after the 4th week. After I got home that week, I thought I smelled cigarettes. Both Alice and I smoked when we first met. After we got married, we decided to break this habit together. It was difficult at first, but we managed it in the end. We had been smoke-free for about 2 years when this all started. I asked Alice if she smoked while I was gone. Yes, she said. Sorry, it's just so hard when you're not here. I understand, I told her. You understand that I have no choice. Jake is the one who sends me everywhere. I understand, she said. I just don't like it, that's all. I would like you to be at home more often. I think so too, I said. Maybe I'll talk to Jake and see if he calms down a little. I actually talked to Jake about it, but he interrupted me and said it was part of the job. If I don't like it, he said, I can find another job. As someone from a good company who needs to pay bills, I accepted it and continued working. But I still felt out some things. About a week later, I had just returned home from a trip and was getting ready to go to bed when Alice asked me to turn on the fireplace. We both liked it to be on when we made love, so I went to turn it on. That's when I noticed the warning light had gone out. I wondered what could make it happen and couldn't make it burn, so I shut off the gas supply to the unit and made a mental note to call a technician. Because of my schedule, it took a couple of weeks before I was able to invite anyone to look at it. After running the diagnostic, the technician looked at me and shook his head. I'm sorry, Mr. Langley, he said, but this regulator is faulty. It has probably been there for at least 60 years. Can you replace him? I asked. He shook his head. I'm afraid not, he said. They stopped making them about 30 years ago. Honestly, I'm surprised it lasted this long without causing problems. Do you understand that there could be a hellish explosion up here? If I were you, I would replace the entire insert. I'm not sure when I'll have time to do this, I said. I have a pretty busy schedule. He handed me a business card. Well, when you have time, come and see what we have, he said. Heck, We have remote control devices and you can control one of them from your smartphone via the internet. In the meantime, I wouldn't turn on the gas in this thing, or you could get into some serious trouble. Thank you, I said, taking his business card. Unfortunately, I was never able to find the time to replace the insert. Despite Alice's constant reminders, Jake kept sending me out, sometimes on weekends. As a result, the house became very cold. Our sex life practically disappeared, and Alice began to speak very briefly and abruptly to me. I did my best to maintain some semblance of calm, but it was not easy. As the trips continued, Alice became increasingly ill. However, Jake didn't seem to care as he kept referring me to one client after another. Several times when I called my home phone it went to voicemail, and when I called Alice on her cell phone, it went straight to voicemail. When I asked her about it, all she did was make up excuses. Sorry, but I decided to go have a drink with the girls and didn't hear the phone ring, she said. And then the worst thing that could happen, happened. I finished exploring the site a day early and decided to head home to surprise Alice. As it turned out, it was me who got the surprise. As I pulled into our driveway, I saw Jake's BMW parked in front of our garage. I wondered what he was doing here. I got out and put my hand on the hood of his car. It was quite warm, so I knew he hadn't been here very long. I walked into the house and saw Alice sitting on the couch with Jake. I saw her quickly pull her hands away when I opened the door. I also noticed what she was wearing, a short black dress that showed off most of her legs and a lot of cleavage. There was also a rather thick smell of cigarette smoke in the house. "Tom, are you home?" she said, getting up. Jake stood up too and looked at me with a smirk on his face. "Yes, it's a surprise," he said. "You were supposed to be gone until tomorrow." "What's happened?" "We finished work a day early, so I decided to go home and spend some time with my wife," I said. "What's going on here?" "Jake was just about to invite me to dinner," Alice said. Jake grinned as he nodded his head. "I see," I said. I turned to Jake before speaking. "Well, I'm home now, so if anyone invites Alice to go out somewhere, it will be me, her husband. I think you should leave now." "What if I don't do this?" he asked. "Then I'll just have to throw your ass out of my house," I said. "You may be my boss at work, but not here in my house." He grinned and looked at Alice. "I'll take care of it," Alice said, looking at Jake. "I think you should leave now." Jake didn't say anything for a few moments, then nodded his head and started to leave. "I'll talk to John about this tomorrow," I said before Jake opened the door to leave. "I don't think he'll approve of you hitting on an employee's wife." "You better not tell John anything," Jake said. "You forget that my uncle is a senior member of board. Both your work and John's work are in his hands, and don't forget you have to be in Jonesboro on Sunday." He turned to Alice. "I'll talk to you later," he added before closing the door. I turned back to Alice. "What the hell is going on here?" I asked. "Are you sleeping with him?" Alice didn't say anything, but lowered her eyes in embarrassment. I had my answer. "That's what you are, isn't it? How long has this shit been going on?" "For a while." "Damn it, Tom, you're never home," she said. "Yeah, because the asshole you're sleeping with keeps sending me out of town," I said. "My God, Alice, how can you be so damn stupid? You knew he was the one who sent me away. Of course, you're smart enough to understand what he was doing. How many times have you had sex with him in our bed?" "I don't know," she said. "I did not count." "Fucking amazing," I said. "What? Did you fall in love with him?" "I'm afraid not much," she said. "But I still love you. I just want you to be home. You know what that means, don't you?" I asked. "What?" she asked. "That means I'll get a divorce as soon as I can," I said. "There is no way I can come to terms with this." "Please, Tom, don't," she said. "I don't want a couple of months or so," I said. She didn't even make me feel good. "Damn it, Alice, how could you be so damn selfish? What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Do you still want to take me out to dinner?" Are you fucking kidding me? I asked. I'll have to get a motel room for the night. There is no way I will sleep in this bed again. Not after you slept with him in it, and there's nowhere else for me to sleep here. I'll be damned if I try to sleep on the couch. Besides, the whole damn place reeked of cigarettes. By the way, do you allow him to smoke here? We both smoke in the house, she said. I'm sorry. I stood up and looked at her before speaking, trying to control my anger. Let me get one thing straight, I said. I'm going to find a motel room for the night. I'll come by tomorrow while you're at work to pick up some of my things. If you bring this idiot into my house again before the divorce is final, you will both pray to God that you were never born. Do you understand me? Yes, said Alice, and tears streamed down her face. I couldn't help but wonder why she was crying. After all, she was the one who caused all the pain. I rushed upstairs to grab my suitcase and some clothes and saw ashtrays on both nightstands. Both were filled with ash and cigarette butts. The room smelled of stale cigarette smoke and sex. It was all I could do to stop myself from throwing up. I packed enough for a couple of days and then headed back down. Alice was still sitting on the sofa. I'm leaving now, I said. Here, I added, taking off my wedding ring. I threw it on the table in front of her. I won't need this anymore. Remember what I said. Goodbye. I left the house, got into my car and drove away. I don't know what she did after I left, and frankly, I didn't care. All I know is that she didn't bombard me with calls or texts after I left. I found a motel that rented rooms with kitchenettes for a week and paid 2 weeks in advance. However, I had a feeling I would be there a little longer and didn't want to risk the room being occupied when I returned from Jonesboro. I made myself comfortable, and it was that night that the nightmares began. The next day, I came to work a little early and handed in all my documents. Deliberately avoiding Jake, I went to see John Carlson, who was next in my chain of command. Tom, you came early, he said. How did everything go? Everything went well, John, I said. I have already submitted my documents. Listen, I have a personal problem that I need to deal with before I leave for Jonesboro, and I was wondering if I could take the rest of the day off. Have you talked to Jake yet? He asked. Well, Jake is part of my problem, I said. He looked at me in surprise. About? He asked. Do you want to tell me about this? I spent the next few minutes telling him what happened the previous evening and what Alice had told me. I need to pick up some more of my things and go see a divorce lawyer today, I said. That's why I came to you instead of going to Jackie. I see, said John. Okay, go and do what you need to do. I'll take care of Jakey, and listen, if you need someone to talk to, feel free to call me anytime. I thanked him and left the building. Luckily, I managed to avoid Jake. I went to a cafe and had a quick breakfast while searching the internet for a divorce lawyer on my smartphone. I found one of them and made an appointment for the same day. After finishing breakfast, I looked at the time and decided that Alice had already left for work, so I headed towards what used to be our house. Her car was nowhere to be seen, so I parked and went inside. The room still smelled of cigarettes, but not as strongly as last night. I went upstairs and grabbed some more of my things and took them to my car. I grabbed a few trash bags, filled them with as many as I could carry, and put them in the car as well. I figured I'd need a place to store all this stuff and made a mental note to rent it that day. I went into my workshop and took inventory of everything I had there. Naturally, I couldn't hide it all in the car, and I knew I'd have to go back for it. Then I found something I had forgotten about, a small round container with about 10 old CS training tablets, the kind I used in the gas chamber. For those who don't know, CS, or 2-chlorobenzylide nomilononitril, is one of the most commonly used tear gases by police and the military. Technically, it's not really a gas like hydrogen or oxygen, it's more like tiny particles that get into literally everything, clothes, hair, eyes, you name it. We have used these tablets to simulate a chemical attack when training in a gas chamber, and it is extremely effective. When I served, we used to take 1 or 2 of these tablets and put them on a metal plate. The plate heated up and the capsules melted, releasing gas. 2 capsules were usually more than enough for a decent workout in the gas chamber. A person exposed to CS would experience a burning sensation on exposed skin, watery eyes, and burning irritation of the mucous membranes of the nose, mouth, and throat. This results in coughing, severe nasal discharge, confusion, and difficulty breathing. This is an unpleasant sensation, but after a shower it goes away quite quickly. I used to do impromptu field trainings by sneaking some CS powder into ashtrays, usually when we went into the field. Because the chemical reacts with heat, anyone who uses the ashtray will end up in their own personal little gas chamber. A bad thought flashed through my mind, and I took the capsules into the house. I opened the capsule and poured the powder into one ashtray, then did the same with the other. If Alice and Jake decided to enjoy a cigarette after intercourse, they would be in for a surprise. This will stop them from smoking in my house, I thought. I went around the house and did the same with a couple of other ashtrays that I discovered were used, but I didn't stop there. I took a couple of capsules, opened them, and sprinkled the powder on the bottom sheet of the bed and 2 pillows, then carefully replaced the top sheet and coverlet. I thought about sprinkling some CS on the stove but decided against it. I only had 4 capsules left and wanted to make sure they were enough for the trip back. I decided that what I had already done would be enough to interrupt intercourse a little, at least for now. The last thing was to take my guns, my personnel laptop, and our tax returns for the last 2 years, which the lawyer said she wanted to see. I locked the gun in the trunk of my car, then locked the house and drove away. I headed to a warehouse, rented a small space, and hid my things until I found another place to call home. When I finished unloading my car, I locked the locker and noticed that I had just enough time for a quick burger before meeting with the lawyer. I arrived at Lisa Hawkins' law office right on time and was ushered into her office. She listened to my story, taking notes as I spoke. She didn't say anything until I finished. "Well, Mr. Langley, that's quite a story," she said. "Do you see any way to restore your marriage?" "No, none," I said. "Okay," she said. "Well, for starters, Missouri is a limited no-fault state, but you can cite her adultery as it could affect the distribution of marital assets. You don't have children, so there won't be any problems with child support. From the tax forms you brought, I see that your wife made a little less than you, but in my opinion, not enough to claim any spousal support. What about at home? Do you want to keep it?" "No," I told her. "I can't live there anymore." "She can keep it if she wants, or you could sell it and split the proceeds, but I doubt you have very much capital in this place," she said. "I can suggest that you sell it and see what she says in her answer." "This is wonderful," I said. "Can I get revenge on Jake for what he did?" She shook her head. "You mean alienation of affection?" she asked. I nodded my head. "No, I'm afraid that's not an option in Missouri. This hasn't happened since about 2003. Are you saying he's your boss?" "Yes," I said. "Well, then I would recommend that you go over his head, perhaps talk to his boss or your company's HR department." "You work at Empire Tech, right?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Well, you're lucky," she said. "I happen to know that they do not tolerate such behavior. Talk to them, let them know what's going on. I'm sure they will work with you. If they don't, come back and we'll discuss it, okay?" "Sounds tempting," I said. "Thank you." "Okay, I'll start filling out the paperwork," she said. "Where would you like her to be notified?" "It would be nice to visit her at work," I said. Lisa smiled at this. "Okay," she said. "Now don't do anything stupid. This also means no dating. The court will generally not view this very favorably. I would also recommend that you see a psychologist." She pulled out a business card and handed it to me. I recognized the name, Dr. Rose Carlson, John's wife. "Got it, thank you," I said. We concluded the meeting and I paid the down payment after she handed me a checklist of things she said would help protect me financially. We only had one joint credit card through our bank, so I canceled the card, withdrew half of what we had in the bank, and opened a new account in just my name. From there I grabbed a bite to eat and headed back to the motel. I didn't hear anything from Alice until late that evening. I recognized her number when it popped up on my smartphone. I decided to answer the call. "You son of a bitch," she screamed. "What did you do with the house?" she asked. That's when I realized exactly what had happened. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied. "Yes, you understand everything, bastard," she said. "You put something in the ashtrays and there's something in the bed." "You mean besides you and Jake?" I asked. "Damn it," she said. "Tell me what you did, we can't even use the bedroom." I asked. The next voice belonged to my boss and he was unhappy. "Damn it, Tom, what have you done? This whole place looks like a fucking gas chamber or something," he growled. "I'm going to kick your fucking ass." "What are you doing in my bed with my wife, you son of a bitch?" I asked. "If anyone deserves to get their ass kicked, it's you. You'll pay for this, bastard," he threatened. "I'll be sure to pass on your little threat to John and my lawyer," I said. "And now, bye." I ended the conversation and started counting to 10. The phone rang again before I counted to 7. I ignored the call and sent it to voicemail. I couldn't help but smile, thinking about what just happened in the bedroom. Something told me they wouldn't be sleeping in that bed tonight. I slept fairly well that night, except for one nightmare in which I dreamed of shooting 2 traitors with a machine gun. I slept the entire next day and didn't get out of bed until about 10:30. I went to brunch and was surprised when Alice sat at my table. "What a surprise," I said. "How did you sleep last night?" "I think you know how I slept last night," she said. "I was passing by and saw your car, so I decided to come in and see you." "What do you want, Alice?" I asked. "I'm trying to enjoy a good breakfast." "I want to talk," she said, "about us." "There's no more use, Alice," I said. "You achieved this when you decided to sleep with my boss." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "I was just lonely." "Do you think I wasn't like that?" I asked. "You knew damn well I left because your fucking friend sent me away. By the way, yesterday I met with a lawyer. She is filing divorce papers. You should be notified sometime next week." "But I don't want a divorce," she said quietly. "And I don't want a cheating whore as my wife," I told her. "Don't worry. I'll leave the house to you unless you want to sell it. Either way is good for me. And your credit card doesn't work anymore." "I know," she said. "I found out about this morning when I tried to pay for gas. I had to use cash." "Tell me, what did you do with the house yesterday?" "I have no idea what you're talking about," I said. "I just came to pick up some more of my things, especially my weapons and my computer." "Tell me what happened." "Well, Jake and I were enjoying a cigarette in the bedroom before we went to bed," she said. "I know you don't like smoking in the house, but we decided that you won't come back so it won't change anything." Immediately after we put out the cigarettes, we both felt a burning sensation. We started coughing and snot came out of our noses. "I knew you did something, but I didn't know what." "Well, I guess you won't smoke in the bedroom anymore," I said. "So, what did you do? Did you go to Jake's apartment?" "Yes, we spent the night there," she said. However, nothing happened. By that time, neither of us was ready for this. "This is just too damn bad," I told her sarcastically. "What are you doing now?" "I'm going to go back to air the house and tidy up the bedroom," she said. "Look, I know it's over between us, but I was wondering if there was any way we could at least part as friends." I couldn't believe this woman's endurance. I put my fork down and looked at her before saying anything. "Friends?" I asked. "You did the worst thing a woman can do to someone she claims to love. You betrayed my trust and broke my heart by having sex with my boss, in my house and in my bed, and you have the nerve to ask if we can be friends? Let me tell you something, bitch. Right now, it takes everything I have to keep myself from killing you right here with my bare hands." As I spoke, her eyes widened and her face turned white. "Do you really have it all no hotamino feelings?" asked she, and by her face originated tears. "Yes," said I. "Earlier, I loved you, everyone, his heart. More no. Sosami strongly how yearlier loved you. Sosami, I'm very strong. I hate you now. You hate me? She snorted. Each kill his creatures, said I to her. Ah, you better say, Jake, what if he will pester Humnus? I about it kabut vin, is marabut dignity, and feed it to the dogs. Alice recoiled when I spoke. She had never seen this side of me before. She grabbed her purse and stood up. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to finish my breakfast in peace. Right now, just the sight of you makes my stomach churn. I am sorry, Tom, she sobbed before turning and walking away. I watched as she got into her car and drove away. Good riddance to bad trash, I thought to myself. However, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that they didn't encounter the CS I sprinkled on the bed. I spent the rest of the day doing virtually nothing. I drove around town, walked in the park, and then ended up watching the game at a bar while drinking a couple of beers. I thought about going home and getting some more of my things, but decided against it, not knowing how I could handle being around Alice. After that, I returned to the motel and packed my things for the trip to Jonesboro. I heard from Alice one day, on the Tuesday after she was served with the divorce papers at work. She was not very happy and felt humiliated when the process manager told her that she was being served with divorce papers because of her adultery. How could you humiliate me like that? She asked. How could you humiliate me by sleeping with my boss, bitch? I growled back at her before ending the conversation. I also received a threatening email from Jake, which I forwarded to John. John wrote me back, telling me not to worry about Jake. If all goes well, he'll be gone by the end of the week, John said. Okay, I thought. He can take this traitor with him, and now I'm getting ready to return. In a way, it's probably a good thing I haven't been in town to deal with the traitors these past few days. Nobody knows what I could do. Looking at my watch, I saw that it was approaching 5 a.m., so I decided to take a shower, have breakfast, and head back. I was on the road heading home around 6:30 on Thursday. I had quite a long trip ahead of me, so I took this time to relax. As I approached my hometown, I turned on the radio to my favorite local station, hoping to hear the morning news. At least one person is reported dead, and another is in critical condition after firefighters responded to an incident on Old Mill Road, the announcer said. Old Mill Road? This is the road on which my house stands, I thought. I turned up the volume and started listening further. According to reports, an explosion destroyed the second floor of an old farmhouse on Old Mill Road late Wednesday night, the announcer added. Firefighters responded but were unable to control the flames. 2 people were pulled out of the house. One of them was pronounced dead at the scene. It is unknown what started the fire. I had a bad feeling about this and decided to pop home, just in case. When I got there, I was shocked by what I saw. The house was completely destroyed. All that remains are smoking ruins and a brick fireplace. I saw 2 cars near the workshop. One belonged to Alice and the other, apparently, to Jake. The workshop, where all my tools were, seemed untouched. I pulled into the driveway and was stopped by a couple of firefighters. Sorry, sir, but you will have to leave, one of them told me. I pulled out my license and showed it to them. This is my home, I said. I've been in Jonesboro since Sunday. What's happened? Someone reported an explosion late last night, the fireman said. We got crews here as quickly as we could, but it was too late. I heard on the radio that 2 people were pulled out, I said. My wife was here last night. What happened to her? Yes, sir, said the fireman. The woman was pulled out of the house. She was quite seriously injured and was taken to the burn center of the city hospital. I don't know who she was and I haven't received any news about her condition. And the other person? I asked. The fireman looked down before shaking his head. I'm sorry, sir, but he didn't make it, the fireman said. I nodded my head. What caused this? I asked, pointing to the remains of the house. The fireman looked at the pile of charred debris and shook his head. I'm not sure yet, he said. We're still investigating. You may want to contact your insurance company. I nodded my head and got out of the car. I got to my motel and called John to tell him the news. "I'm sorry to hear that, Tom," he told me. "Just so you know, yesterday the board agreed to terminate Jake's employment. Today they were going to fire him. Why don't you stop by the hospital and check on Alice? Take the rest of the day off." "Thank you," I told him. "See you tomorrow." I went to the hospital and found the ward where Alice was taken. I spoke briefly with the charge nurse and gave her my insurance information. It was then that I learned that she had second and third degree burns covering more than half of her body. "She's lucky to be alive," the nurse said. "Can I see her?" I asked. "Not now," said the nurse. "We prescribed her antibiotics and gave her a sedative. The doctor says she will probably need skin grafts." "Let me know when I can see her," I said, giving the nurse my cell phone number. I went back to my room and cried. Don't ask me why. Maybe it was grief over the years I spent with Alice, but I don't know. What I do know is that most of the hatred I felt for her is now gone. Before she slept with Jake, she was the love of my life. I went online and filed a claim with my insurance company. According to the site, I will be informed of their intentions within 30 days. That night I slept for the first time without experiencing my nightmare. Over the next few days, I confirmed that Jake had died in the explosion. John also informed me that Jake's job was now mine if I wanted it. What the hell, I thought. I figured I might as well take it since it would mean more money and not as much travel. I spent a couple of days looking for a decent apartment and found one. I moved my things, set up my apartment, and spent the weekend retrieving my tools from the old workshop. While I was there, I wandered through the ruins of our house, looking for anything that could be salvaged. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything useful. A few days later, I got a call from the hospital saying I could see and talk to Alice. I entered her room and looked at her. Most of her body was covered in bandages. I walked to the edge of her bed and looked down at her. She looked at me with one eye and I saw tears streaming down her face. "You can speak?" I asked. She nodded her head slightly and said with her lips, "Yes." "What's happened?" "We walked on Wednesday evening," she said. When we returned, I asked Jake to light the fireplace in the bedroom. He fired it up on Monday and we used it for 2 nights without any problems. "What?" I asked, stunned. "Don't you remember I told you not to put gas into that thing until we replaced the insert? What were you thinking?" "I'm sorry," she said. "Go on," I said. "Well, Jake saw that the fireplace was off, so he checked to see if the gas was on. Then he lit a match to start the fireplace and that's when it happened," she said. "I heard a loud bang and the next thing I remember is that I woke up here. That's why I turned off the gas in this thing," I said. "I told you that turning it on is too dangerous." "I think I forgot," she said. "Well, Jake is dead now," I told her. Tears streamed down her face and the house is completely destroyed, just like our marriage. "I really ruined everything, didn't I?" she asked. "Yes, you did it," I told her. "What will happen now?" she asked. "Well, they told me you'll probably need skin grafts," I said. "It will be very expensive. I don't know if your insurance will cover this." "What about us?" she asked. "I already told you that there is no us anymore," I said. "You screwed that up too. The divorce will continue," I added as she began to sob. "But I'll keep you covered until you get over this." "Thank you for this," she said. "Do you still hate me?" "Not as much as before," I said. "But I still don't like you very much." "I understand, Tom," she said. "In any case, I won't bother you for now," I said. "I just hope you learned your lesson." "Which one?" she asked. "If you play with fire, you will get burned," I said before leaving the room. Much to my surprise, the insurance company intervened on my behalf and I received a check for the damage to my home. Once the mortgage was paid off, there wasn't much left and I had no intention of rebuilding, so I spoke to Alice and we agreed to sell the property and split the proceeds. She remained in the hospital for quite a long time. The newspaper sent her on long paid leave while she recovered. The divorce went, as my lawyer said, and after 60 days, I was a free man. In the meantime, I started dating Rose and she was doing a great job helping me deal with my anger issues. I kept my word to Alice and kept her on my harness until she was well enough to walk on her own. The doctors did a wonderful job on her and the skin grafts seemed to take just fine. She wasn't as beautiful as she was when we got married, but she still looked pretty good despite her scars. As a final gesture, I helped her settle into her new apartment. I handed her the keys to the apartment after the furniture was moved. "I hope you like it," I said. I made sure to choose the one without a fireplace. She laughed, taking the keys. "Thank you, Tom," she said, and tears appeared in her eyes. "I appreciate it. You're a good man, Tom, and you deserve a good woman. I'm sorry I ruined everything for us." I nodded my head. "Yes, well, I guess that's what it is," I told her, hugging her one last time. "You take care of yourself." "I'll do that," she said, before I left. Now what? I asked myself. I took out my phone and looked through my contacts. I couldn't believe that so many women had given me their phone numbers over the past few months. I found the right number and called. "Hello?" I heard a woman's voice. "Yes, this is Tom," I said. "Are you busy tonight?" "I was busy until you called," Nancy said. I met Nancy a couple of weeks ago at a club in town. She had dark blue eyes and legs that wouldn't go anywhere. "Would you like some more of my lasagna?" she asked. "You know that," I said. "Well, come," she said. "I'll warm it up for you." "I'm on my way," I said, ending the conversation. Yes, sometimes playing with a little fire is just what the doctor ordered. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.